Okay, so let's unpack this. If you were to walk into a room exactly 1 minute after someone passes away, what do you think that room feels like?
Oh gosh. I mean, heavy.
Right. Heavy, just this crushing finality. Because Hollywood tells us it is this moment of just tragic, crushing despair.
Yeah, the music swells.
Exactly. The music swells, everyone collapses in tears, and the story essentially just stops.
Right.
But what if the reality of that room is actually the exact opposite?
Oh, that's an interesting thought.
Like, what if it's not a stop sign, but this massive kinetic transfer of energy?
Mm-hmm.
So today we're taking a deep dive into a profoundly shifting book called Keeper of Final Moments and its companion workbook.
It's such a fascinating read.
It really is. And our mission today is to completely reframe how we view the end of life. Like,
Wow.
we are taking the focus off of the person who is leaving and shifting it entirely to the ones who are left behind.
Which is a huge paradigm shift.
A massive one.
Yeah.
And to kick things off, there is a specific exchange from the book that completely shattered my perspective.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I need to read it exactly as it happened. So it goes like this. Asher Wright says, wow, let's take on this one question. If death is transformation, what transforms? The one leaving or the one who stays?
That's such a good question.
Right. And Andrea responds, both. There is no such thing as only one side. The person who is staying is transforming in other ways. She says, the energy that dropped their body has gone on. It completely transformed. All the individuals who are witnessing are having a death experience that transforms their lives in subtle but direct ways.
Wow.
Death is never going to be for the one leaving. It's always going to be for the one staying, and that's death.
The psychology of that exchange is just, it's what makes it so powerful.
Yeah.
Because we are incredibly culturally conditioned to make death entirely about the person in the bed.
We really are.
We project all our own fears of the unknown directly onto them.
Right, because we don't know what's happening to them.
Exactly. But Andrea, who has spent decades as an end-of-life caregiver, she operates as the ultimate stayer.
The ultimate stayer. I like that.
Yeah, she serves as a guide for her patients during their final moments.
Yeah.
And her fundamental insight is that the one leaving is simply moving forward.
They're just moving on.
Right. They're experiencing a liberation from the physical form. So the actual visceral weight of death.
The void.
Yes, the sudden, heavy absence, the void in the room that belongs entirely to the witnesses who stay.
Wow.
They're the ones whose reality has just been fundamentally altered.
Which completely flips the script on how we are taught to behave in those moments.
It really does.
And what I found so compelling in these sources is how Andrea grounds this massive spiritual concept in the sheer physical reality of dying.
Yes. The biology of it.
Right, because the biological progression of death is so entirely different from what we see in the movies.
Oh, totally. The cinematic version is just, a monitor flatlining. The person sighs gracefully and their body just gently goes limp.
Right, it's very sanitized.
Very.
But reading Andrea's literal descriptions of what actually happens in the room, it is an active, undeniable biological shutdown.
Well, the body is an ecosystem, It doesn't just turn off with a single switch.
Right.
It powers down system by system. So, for example, as the major organs begin to fail and the body conserves energy, the patient's ability to swallow stops entirely.
Just stops.
Yeah, the muscles simply no longer perform that function.
See, when I first read that, my immediate thought was how terrifying that must be for a family to watch.
Oh, absolutely.
Because you associate an inability to drink with suffering. Like, they must be so thirsty.
Right, we're in pain.
Exactly. But Andrea approaches it with such practical, grounded tenderness.
She really does.
Since they can't take in liquids, she provides comfort by moistening the patient's mouth with a lollipop sponge soaked in cold water.
It's this tiny, incredibly intimate detail that movies just never show.
Never.
But it brings so much dignity to the process.
It really does.
It centers the care on the immediate physical reality rather than the fear of the outcome.
Yeah.
And building on that physical reality, we really have to look at what happens at the exact moment of the final breath.
Okay. Yes.
Andrea explains that the final breath is always an exhale.
Always an exhale.
Always.
Yeah.
It's a complete release, and in that very second, the biology of the body changes entirely.
Right.
All muscle tone is completely and instantly lost. It is this profound physical surrender.
Which affects everything. Yeah.
Everything. If the person has dentures, they will simply drop because the jaw loses all tension.
Oh, wow.
And the eyes, they don't magically flutter shut like in a drama. They often remain open.
And that is where Andrea takes on this deeply intimate responsibility.
She does.
She doesn't call in a medical team to whisk the body away or anything.
No, she steps in closer.
Right. She's the one who manually, gently closes their jaw.
Yeah.
She's the one who sweeps her hand down to close their eyes. I mean, I had to put the text down for a second when I read that part.
I completely understand. It's heavy.
Just sitting with the sheer weight of being the person whose hands perform that task.
It is the definition of a sacred duty.
Yeah.
Because there are no monitors to turn off in the spaces she cultivates, the focus remains entirely on the human being.
The person.
Exactly. After closing the eyes and jaw, she performs a natural ceremonial bath, carefully washing the body.
Which is so beautiful.
It is. And she pairs this physical cleansing with a deeply personal gesture.
The forehead kiss.
Yes.
I found this to be the most moving detail in the entire book.
It's incredible.
After the bath, she leans down, kisses their forehead, and verbally thanks them for their trust.
Wow.
She views it as an absolute honor to be present for their most intimate and vulnerable moment.
Yeah.
She isn't just an administrator of medical care. She is actively honoring the vessel that carried their soul.
That reverence for the physical vessel is what allows her to also act as a spiritual guide. Because her work transcends the physical actions in the room. Andrea describes how, energetically, she travels a short distance through the veil.
Okay, I want to pause here.
Sure.
Because when we start talking about traveling through the veil, my mind immediately wants to understand the mechanics of that.
Of course.
Like, is this a literal religious belief, or is it a meditative practice? How exactly is she doing this?
Well, it's best understood as a profound state of empathetic and energetic resonance.
Energetic resonance, okay.
Yeah, the veil refers to that liminal space, the subtle energy threshold between the physical world and whatever comes next.
Right, that in-between space.
Exactly. When Andrea says she moves to the first plane, she is describing a deeply meditative state of holding space.
Oh, I see.
She's aligning her own energy with the transitioning consciousness.
So she's meeting them where they are.
Right. By remaining completely calm, fearless, and spiritually open, she provides an energetic anchor. She essentially walks with them to the threshold, keeping them secure and guided until they fully release their grip on the physical body.
Ensuring they don't experience that transition in isolation.
Exactly.
That explanation makes so much sense.
Yeah, it reframes it completely.
It feels like she is functioning exactly like a birth doula, but just on the opposite end of the spectrum.
That is a brilliant comparison.
You know, society throws these massive celebrations for the receivers.
Oh, totally.
The midwives, the doulas, the doctors who catch a baby entering the world. We throw showers, we buy gifts, we celebrate the arrival.
We have a whole industry for it.
We do, but Andrea serves as a sender.
A sender. I love that word for it.
And reading her process, I couldn't help but think how beautiful and honestly how vital it is to have a dedicated guide for the exit.
It really is.
We put so much infrastructure around arriving safely, but almost none around leaving safely.
It's so true. The disparity between how we treat birth and death really reveals our deep cultural discomfort with absence.
Yes, that fear of the void.
Exactly. Which brings us to a crucial pivot in Andrea's role.
Okay.
Because if she is guiding the departing soul safely to the veil, what is happening to the family left standing in the physical room?
Right, the ones who stay.
Yes. If death is an experience for the living, as your opening quote established, then Andrea has to transition from intensely caring for the patient
to intensely caring for the family witnesses.
Exactly.
And navigating the family's experience brings us to the empty room concept from the workbook.
Yes, this is a big one.
I have to admit, I really struggled with this part of her practice.
It can be very jarring.
It is incredibly jarring. I understand the theory, but the application felt, well, tough.
Let's unpack the mechanism of it then. To prepare families for the inevitable void, Andrea relies on a specific conceptual exercise.
Okay.
While the patient is still alive, still breathing in the bed, she asks the family to mentally project themselves into the near future.
Right.
She asks them to imagine walking into that exact room, but the hospital bed is completely gone.
The equipment is gone.
Everything.
Yeah.
Their loved one is simply no longer in the house.
Wow.
She forces them to conceptually confront the visceral physical absence before it actually happens.
Okay, here is where my brain puts up a massive wall.
Fair.
Isn't it incredibly morbid or almost cruel to force a family to do that?
It sounds harsh at first.
Yeah, to pre-grieve an empty room while the person you love is still lying right there in front of you. It feels like you are rushing them out the door or just giving up on the present moment.
Right.
I just can't imagine looking at someone I love and trying to pretend they're already gone.
Well, the discomfort you are feeling is a very natural biological response.
Okay.
Our egos are deeply attached to physical form. We want to hold on.
Always.
But Andrea's methodology is rooted in the reality of human psychology. She explains that avoiding the reality of that impending silence doesn't delay the pain.
It just kicks the can down the road.
Worse than that, it merely ensures that when the silence finally arrives, it breeds absolute chaos in the room.
What kind of chaos? Because usually we just picture people crying.
Right. But crying is a natural processing of grief. The chaos Andrea is trying to prevent is a panicked nervous system response.
Like a shock.
Yes. When a family hasn't mentally prepared for the absolute finality of the void, the moment of death triggers a profound existential panic.
Because the brain just can't compute it.
Exactly. The human brain struggles to compute sudden, absolute absence. And because they haven't mapped that emotional terrain, Andrea observes intense, almost erratic coping mechanisms.
Yeah, the book mentioned this. People simply cannot handle the sudden stillness.
No, they can't. They will start nervously shaking their foot or aggressively scratching their faces, fidgeting uncontrollably.
Like their fight or flight system is just misfiring completely.
Yeah.
They have all this kinetic energy and nowhere to put it.
Exactly that. And sometimes it even manifests as sudden irrational anger.
Really?
Oh, yeah. They will start lashing out at the caregivers or blaming each other for the transition.
Wow. So the conceptual preparation of the empty room acts as like a psychological anchor.
Yes, it builds a cognitive bridge. By visualizing the void ahead of time, their nervous system isn't completely blindsided when the physical body suddenly becomes an empty vessel.
Because if you don't build that bridge, the caregiver basically has to absorb all that misdirected panic.
Exactly.
Which leads us to an incredibly striking anecdote in the book about a patient named Lily.
Oh, Lily's story, yeah.
It perfectly illustrates what happens when fear and panic govern the final moments and how someone like Andrea can completely shift the frequency of a room.
Lily's story is the ultimate case study of the caregiver as the energetic anchor.
Right.
The tension in that house was palpable long before the final breath.
Yeah, to set the scene from the book, Lily was actively dying, and the atmosphere in her house was thick with anxiety.
Just this intense, rushing energy among the family members.
Right. They were terrified of the process they were witnessing. And in their fear, they were desperately asking the caregiver on duty to administer more morphine to Lily. And what struck me reading that was realizing the family wanted the morphine not necessarily because Lily was in agonizing physical pain.
Right.
But because they were in agonizing emotional pain.
That is a profound observation.
They wanted to rush the process to escape their own discomfort of sitting in the tension.
They were absolutely trying to medicate their own fear.
Yeah.
And Andrea was actually driving to the house when she got the call from the caregiver that Lily was opening her eyes.
Which, as we discussed, that loss of muscle tone in the face is often one of the very last physical signs before the final exhale.
Exactly. So by the time Andrea walked through the front door, Lily had just taken her last breath.
You would think a caregiver arriving minutes late to a death would rush in, frantic, apologizing, matching the panicked energy of the family.
That would be the natural reaction for most people.
Totally. But Andrea did the exact opposite. She intentionally walked into that thick, dense, rushing energy with a profound sense of joy and calm.
She just looked at the situation, took in the room, and simply stated, she left.
She left.
Think about the immense power of those 3 words.
It's incredible.
The frequency of that phrasing completely dismantles the panic. It doesn't frame death as a medical failure or a terrifying tragedy.
Right. It frames it as a quiet departure.
A natural exit.
Yeah.
By stating it so calmly, and then immediately stepping in to perform her sacred rituals.
Manually closing Lily's jaw, preparing the body with that deep reverence.
Yes, Andrea single-handedly shifted the dense energy of the room. She neutralized the chaos.
She gave the family's nervous systems permission to finally stand down.
Exactly.
And because she created that specific space, completely free of panic, the grief in the room actually transmuted into something else entirely.
It shifted into a celebration.
Which leads to one of the most unexpected and beautiful moments in the entire book.
It's so good.
At midnight, after Andrea had prepared the body, Lily's husband looked around the room and said, "Let's toast to her."
And they poured shots of tequila to honor her.
Right there in the house, with Lily's body still present.
It is the ultimate testament to what Andrea is teaching us. When you remove fear and ego from the equation, what remains is pure love.
Pure love.
Because of the environment Andrea cultivated, Lily's family was able to transition from desperately trying to cling to her physical form to genuinely celebrating her spiritual freedom.
You know, I found myself sitting with that image of the tequila toast for a long time.
Really?
Yeah, because it completely shatters our societal expectations of grief. We are quietly taught that if you aren't weeping uncontrollably, if you aren't fighting the medical realities to the bitter end, you somehow didn't love the person enough.
We equate suffering with love.
We really do. But what Andrea is demonstrating is that celebrating a death, pouring a shot of tequila at midnight to honor their exit, isn't a betrayal of love.
No.
It is actually the highest, most selfless expression of it.
Absolutely.
It's honoring the soul's freedom rather than mourning your own loss of their physical presence.
But to reach that point requires a remarkable level of self-awareness.
It really does.
You have to separate your own ego, your deeply human desire to keep them near you for your own comfort, from what is actually happening to them, which is a profound liberation.
Yeah.
And if we pull back and look at the broader application of this philosophy, this isn't just an instruction manual for how to behave at a deathbed.
Right.
This is a framework for how to navigate life.
Which brings us perfectly to the core philosophy that the workbook really drills down on, the idea that applies to every single listener today.
Yeah.
Andrea says, every day is a dying day.
We experience what she calls micro-deaths constantly.
Right.
We are in a perpetual state of transition, of endings and beginnings.
See, when you say micro-death, my mind immediately goes to the obvious life hurdles.
Like what?
Like going through a tough breakup or losing a job title that you based your entire identity around. Is that the scale of transition she's talking about?
Yes, but it goes even deeper than that.
Okay.
It is the death of an old belief system that no longer serves you. It's realizing a friendship has run its course.
So even the internal stuff.
Exactly. It is a biological reality, too. Cells in your body are literally dying and being reborn as we speak.
Wow.
A helpful way to think about a micro-death is to compare it to a software update on your phone or computer.
Okay, I like this. How so?
When a device needs to update to a more expanded, capable operating system, the old system has to completely shut down.
Right, the screen goes black.
It has to momentarily go dark and cease functioning as it was before the new version can reboot and take over.
You can't run both at once.
No, you cannot run the new software while frantically trying to keep the old software active.
But as humans, that is exactly what we do.
We fight those necessary shutdowns.
We really do. We fight those updates tooth and nail. When a relationship ends or our ego takes a hit, we exhibit the exact same biological panic we talked about earlier.
Yes, the exact same.
We shake our feet, we scratch our faces, we get angry, we blame everyone around us.
Yep.
We use the exact same coping mechanisms in our daily transitions that families use when they are terrified of a physical death in a hospital room.
Because the underlying trigger is identical.
The fear?
The ego fears the void. It is terrified of the empty room.
Right.
It doesn't matter if that room is an empty hospital bed, an empty desk at an old job, or the sudden silence in your apartment after a breakup.
The ego just panics at the absence of what was familiar.
But Andrea's work reveals a profound truth. If we can practice letting go of these smaller identities gracefully,
Micro-deaths.
yes, if we can learn to sit in the uncomfortable silence of those micro-deaths without misfiring into panic, then the final physical death loses its terror.
Wow.
It ceases to be a tragedy and simply becomes our final transition.
So bringing all of this back to you, listening right now, we've covered some incredibly heavy shifting concepts today.
We really have.
And I want to leave you with a question to chew on as you go about your week.
A good one.
When you inevitably face a transition or a micro-death in your daily life over the next few days, maybe a plan completely falls apart, a chapter of your life closes, or you realize an old version of yourself just doesn't fit anymore, how are you going to react?
Right.
Will you cling to the old software with panic and coping mechanisms? Or will you have the courage to let the old version of yourself go gracefully, step into the empty room, and maybe pour a metaphorical shot of tequila to celebrate the expansion of who you are becoming?
The ability to choose freedom over fear is a muscle,
It is.
and we have to build it long before we take our final breath.
Absolutely. If you want to start building that muscle to truly learn how to stop fearing the empty room and start honoring your own transitions, I cannot recommend these resources enough.
They are phenomenal.
You need to get the book and the companion workbook. You can find both of them right now by going to book.andrealuciatripodi.com.
Highly recommend it.
That is book.andrealuciatripodi.com.
It is a beautiful, grounded guide to living more fully by understanding the art of letting go.
We spend so much of our lives desperately trying to avoid the void. We fill the empty rooms with noise, with anxiety, with a refusal to accept that things end.
Yeah.
But what Andrea teaches us is that the void isn't actually empty.
No, it's not.
It is the exact space where transformation happens. We just have to be willing to stand in the room, stay present, and realize that the transformation isn't just for the ones leaving.
It is for us.
It is for us.